Okay, we are starting with international trade today. Right here.
Okay.
That's yours. Everyone has a marker, board, and eraser.
Back on page 5, you said?
It might be 5. It might be more than 5. It says unit 5 though. International trade.
Thanks. We already discussed this.
Yeah, but thanks.
Thanks for supporting.
Oh, unit 5, that's it.
Yes. Okay. So let's do some quick key definitions where it says up there on the top left. Exports and imports. Ruben, what's an export? Yes, goods, services that are being shipped out to another country. Imports are things being brought in from another country. Does anyone know what else you could say besides like goods and services?
Investment.
No.
Guns and butter.
No.
Capital and
Yes.
consumer.
Okay, that's the money like used. We'll come back to the credit and debit part in just a second. But it is like we talk about visibles and invisibles. For like 1 second of one day, I saw that on a worksheet, and people were like, "What's invisibles and visibles?" That's trade of goods and services. Obviously, visibles. What?
Like tangible.
Yes, because you can touch it. You can like it's a good. It's like here's a hairbrush versus like a hair cutting service. That's a service.
You can
No.
touch that.
You can't touch them.
You can run with a hair cutter.
You're not buying him. You're buying his labor. Okay. Trade deficit. Jordan, what is larger for a trade deficit, imports or exports?
Export.
No.
Imports.
You sure?
No.
Okay.
Everyone just said no.
Imports are going to be larger than exports. We're talking about dollar amount.
Oh, for a deficit.
Yes, for a deficit. Adrian, can you give me an example of a country that has a trade deficit?
A trade, us.
Us. Us. It's, I think it's pronounced U.S. Joke. Ooh, this light is not good on me right now.
No, let's go.
That
It was literally that's not funny. It's rude. Honestly,
Miss Taylor, if it helps, a lot of people say you're ill.
Aw, why would you think?
just felt better.
Awful that that's now on.
You're okay, YouTube.
Okay. All right, someone is I know.
Trophy line.
Surplus.
Tutorial first.
Exports is greater than imports. And
What's the export?
okay. Exports are going to be greater than imports. Kayla, can you give me an example of a country that has a trade surplus?
China.
Yes. China would have a positive or negative XN. Positive. So their XN is like plus XN, while ours is kind of like minus XN in the terms of the GDP equation, where it's like C plus I plus G plus XN. Ours is like adding a negative XN. When we trade with other countries, that is recorded on the balance of payments, or the BOP. And there are 3 accounts. 2 main ones that you need to know about, and that's going to be the current account and the financial account.
You want to get t-shirt or?
It's right there.
Like-
to your right.
Okay.
All right. There.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that it has already filtered. This is from yesterday. Over here.
Yeah.
Okay. It says Unit 5, International Trade at the top.
Got it.
It should have already filtered to the AP test, and I don't think they should have capital accounts anywhere on the test. They should have changed all the capital accounts to financial accounts. But if you're going on like Quizlet, if you're going on other resources online, if you see the term capital account, it means financial account. But the new AP test should have it being financial instead of capital. Okay, so what are some transactions in the balance of payments under the current account? Justin, it's been a while, so I'm going to call on you. Justin, do you know of any type of transaction that would be a current account?
Basic purchase of goods and services.
Yeah, so trade. So we just talked about the idea of trade deficits and trade surplus. XN, which is trade. Kayla, what were you saying?
Unilateral transfer.
What is a unilateral transfer?
It's like where you send money to another country, like your grandma sends you money.
So you're buying something? No, you're not buying something. It's one-way transfer of money called a unilateral transfer. It's either like you are sending money to family overseas or something, or like foreign aid. If they were, if like I said in class the other day, if Japan wants to send money to Hawaii because of all the volcano stuff there, is financial aid. That
That one country where you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
They said like
They send like goats. Yeah. There's one more thing in the current account. Does anyone remember
Land.
what that is? Not. Land is in the financial account.
Profits made from interest.
Okay, so land. What else is in the financial account besides land? Investment, stocks, bonds. Okay, stocks, bonds, savings accounts, whatever. The financial investments themselves are in the financial account. That just makes sense. But if you make any money off of your land, if you make any money off of stocks, bonds, or savings accounts, any profit earned is going to be in the current account. So profit on any of this is going to go in the balance payments. Okay, they're not going to say the word profit like outright. What are some words that they can say that you're like, oh, that's profit?
return. Dividend.
Return.
Interests.
Interest. I heard dividends. Interest. I heard one more, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah, but I'm redefining profit, but not going to. Okay. Jordan? Hey, Jordan.
Hey,
What's up?
Taylor.
Think about her name.
It's fine. It's totally fine. Okay. These two accounts are usually in balance. What that means is like if there is, let's say that we have a huge trade deficit and a lot of money is leaving our country because we're buying lots of imports and they're not buying as many of our exports. And so we have a huge trade deficit. And let's say we're also sending more money overseas than people are sending us or whatever, and we're not making very much profit, whatever. We have like negative, I don't know, $100 million in this account. Because what would you call that? Besides deficit. Okay, you could say a negative current account. You could say a current account in deficit. You could say an outflow of the current account. So you can say trade deficit. You can say outflow. You can say that it's a negative current account. But usually if you have a negative current account, you're going to have a positive financial account. And they're usually going to balance each other out. So if this is like negative 100 over here, it's probably going to be plus 100 over here. Okay.
It would just be the opposite for the other one.
And what's the official definition of balance of payments? Just the total?
A record of transaction between countries. A record of financial and goods and services transactions between countries. You guys, get off your phones. You can be at your phones at home. Okay, so.
So if it was positive, you would call it trade surplus and inflow, stuff like that?
Yes. So you're not going to use the word like trade surplus over here because, well, trade's over there. But if this was negative and this was positive, then you would say there's trade surplus, there's an inflow of money. You could say it's a positive current account. I've seen several not FOPs. Wow. I've seen several FRQs that start off with assume the economy's in a recession and they have a positive current account. What that means is like whatever, people are buying their goods, they're selling more goods, whatever. There's a lot of trade. So it could start off something like that. Let's go down one where it says balance of payment practice. So let's just do a couple of these. If you want to, you can finish the rest home and then check yourself. There's the answers in the back of this packet. But it says identify if the example would be included in the current account or financial account for the United States. Keep in mind, it's going to be whatever you put, it's going to be the same for the other country. So this is like the United States and Canada on number 1. Okay, so if the U.S. sells 10 jets in Canada, Cole, what would that be? Current or financial account for the United States? If we sell 10 jets to Canada.
That'd be financial.
Well, is it land?
No.
Stocks? Bonds? Okay, because it's a good. Even though a jet is a very large good, you're still buying a good. And so it's in the it's in the current account for the United States. Where is it for Canada? I think. Also in the current account. It would just be like, would it be an inflow or outflow of money for them if they're buying our jets?
Outflow.
It's an outflow because they are giving us money and they're getting a jet, but we are getting their money for the jet. So it's like an inflow into our current account, but it's an outflow of their current account. Allie, an American company buys a beach resort in Mexico. Financial account, inflow or outflow for the United States.
Outflow
Why?
because they're buying land.
And what do they need if they're buying land in Mexico? Do you think they're going to accept American dollars?
No.
What do they need? What are
Pesos.
they're going to need some pesos. And so we're going to get to currency in just a second of like Americans are dumping their dollar to demand more pesos, and we're going to work all that in just a little bit. Let's do one more. Dylan, a Chinese company sells toys in the U.S.
That is current
Why?
because it's trade.
It's trade. Okay. Let's. Did you have a question? 6.
Do you want to do number 6?
Number 6. An American company produces and sells cars in the U.S.
I
Neither.
don't know the answer to it.
Well, is that trade of any kind? It's America. It's Ford in the United States. It's not even like it's not included.
Wouldn't even be included.
Yeah, it would not even be included.
None was not an option.
Well, the directions are not great. Please put your fidget spinner away. It's not. What year is this? It's not 2016.
Well, actually, fidget spinners started trending in like
17.
beginning of 2017.
Still not 27.
2018 school year, so it's just a fun. Also, there's Jordan's.
I got it at a
I don't
Chinese
care.
buffet.
Okay. All right. Let's. Everyone should have whiteboards in front of them. What I want you to do is I want you to practice drawing 2 currency graphs. One for the dollar and one for, let's say,
The ruby.
the rupee.
Rupee?
Rupee.
The ruby.
I don't know the sign for that.
Ruby.
Rupee.
E. Not rupee.
Are we talking about
In what country is a rupee? Is?
India?
Rupee.
That's
Yes.
rupee.
It's
Rupee.
What I said.
Rupee with a P.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry.
R-U-P-I-E.
Zelda.
Okay.
Rupee was like $1.
So we're doing one for the dollar and one for the rupee. Oh, I think you're right. I think it is R-U-P-E-E.
It is.
So if this is the U.S. dollar and this is the rupee,
Let's do V-Bucks.
is it India?
Oh, who cares?
Yes.
We don't have any
Sounds
Indians.
good.
Yes, it's India.
Bitcoin.
Do you know the
It's irrelevant.
It's real.
If y'all are annoying to me again, I'm gonna move one of you because I've already had 2 complaints yesterday and 1 complaint today
I was here
asking
yesterday.
if
I was here yesterday.
yeah, and they said thank God. So
Things I thank God. Like, thank
About
God.
what? Complaints about what?
complaints about them being annoying,
From who?
like 5 different people.
You said 4 versus
Oh, like people watching the video?
Yeah, well,
People in class.
Do they unsubscribe from your
6.
channel?
Hey, so I've actually got more
Yeah,
subscribers today. I've got 1 thumbs up. Thanks, Dylan. Oh.
Dylan's like, I didn't like it.
Okay. If this is the U.S. dollar, if this is the U.S. dollar, Jessica, then what? Because you weren't looking at me. How do we graph the y-axis for the U.S. dollar if we're comparing against the rupee?
Does the rupee go on top and the dollar go on the bottom?
Does it? Right.
It does.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put like R just for rupee, over dollar for the dollar graph with quantity of dollar. We have demand and supply, just like any normal graph. For the rupee, once again, it's going to be on the denominator if we're talking about that graph. So this time it's going to be dollar over rupee, quantity of rupee, demand and supply. Okay.
Those lines are not that long.
Let's make it up. There you go. Enjoy.
It's funny now.
So we're gonna just put this graph off to the side in just a second because we're gonna come back and shift it. But I'm going to write the shifters here, but there's a little box for them on your little packet. It says 4X, which means foreign exchange shifters. Okay, so does anyone remember what shifts the supply curve for currency?
Supply of money.
No.
Interest rate.
No.
Is it like if
Does anyone?
people want their money?
What?
Like people
The value.
want to take the money
Your
out?
money.
It's
Bella,
equal.
speak. No one talk. Speak.
When you wanna, if you wanna dump your money or to get another currency.
Yes. There's only one thing that shifts the supply curve of a currency, and that is either people wanting or not wanting another currency. So you only need to focus on what shifts demand for a currency, because the other, like if you are demanding another one, then you are dumping, you're exchanging your currency and getting another currency. If I don't want the other currency, I'm going to keep it to myself. So remember, supply shifts when people are exchanging or not exchanging their currency. So I'll say supply shifter for currency, supply for 4X, foreign exchange, which is currency. Changes when people are exchanging their money. Shifts when people are exchanging. If they're exchanging their money, the supply increase or decrease? Say it again. It increases. It's like, remember how we say you dump your dollar to demand more of theirs? And so this is going to be like it's increasing. So if you were exchanging, its supply increases. Or if you are like not exchanging, then you're going to keep that current, like I don't want the rupee. I like interest rates are high here or prices are low here or whatever. I'm going to keep my currency to myself and supply less and decrease supply in the market because I'm not dumping it on the counter or the bank. And so supply decreases if I'm keeping it to myself. Okay, that's the only thing that shifts supply. But there's a whole bunch of things that shift demand. And Dylan, this is your time to shine. What are the shifters of the demand for currency?
More demand.
Dylan, you came up with your own acronym.
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know.
X tree.
XX Riri. Because everyone obviously remembers that. In no way. You were a third period last semester? Yeah, I think that was only said in third period. I don't think anyone else said that. So when it comes to demand for foreign X, demand for currency, demand for the foreign exchange market, it's XX tree Riri. But we're going to just not say that. Okay, so like I'll say you demand more currency. No. I'll just say you demand the currency.
With a higher interest rate.
And this is where we're going to have a list. One that has, yes, a higher interest rate. High interest rates. Why?
Because you get more of a return on your savings account because it'll accumulate faster and a high interest rate.
Can you take out loans from a different country?
No.
No. So you can't be thinking about interest rates as that. So what's the flip side of interest rate? Well, we just talked about the balance of payments and how we had our financial investments and stocks and bonds and all that savings accounts. And so now it's all about the money that you're earning on investments, not the money that you have to pay, but the money that that's your return, all the profit. And so high interest rates because there's more of a return on those financial investments that you're going to put in the current account. Financial account. Sorry. What's another thing that I demand that currency if
traveling.
I'm traveling there. And that goes along with tastes. If I travel there. What else?
Low inflation.
What does that mean, lower inflation?
Things are cheaper.
Things are cheaper. So like they might have a problem on an FRQ where it's like, graph what happens to the demand for a currency when they have low inflation and explained. You cannot say the demand of it's going to go up because there's lower inflation. That's not explained. That was literally in the prompt. So you have to say because lower inflation makes things cheaper and I like things that are cheap. You have to talk about it like that. Adrian, John, if y'all are texting each other, y'all can go like in the hallway or whatever y'all are doing. Y'all are like giggling at each other.
Just picked up my phone.
John's giving you like the eyes. I don't know.
The eyes?
Yeah.
Like seductive?
I don't know. Low inflation, but you can't have your reason be because it's low inflation. That's why I like it. No, low inflation means things are cheap. And there's one more.
Then you have more income.
If you have more income, if the United States gets richer, they buy more of everything. They buy more American goods, yes, but Americans buying American goods doesn't affect currency. But Americans are buying more of everything, not just American goods, but foreign goods as well. If I am richer, I am going to be buying more Indian goods.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. They might have really nice Indian spices that it's all like, I can now afford to make
A fly carpet.
curry.
That was
Curry.
Madam.
I think Ian might have been a better example.
I thought curry. Replace with curry with the shot.
You demand the currency more. No. You demand the currency if your GDP is high. Because that just means you are richer and will buy more things. You are rich. Like you need to talk to the FRQ reader a little bit like they're dumb. You don't need to dumb it down too much where you're turning like a flood. Not even that low. You need to
principle of money.
No, don't be like, oh, and when you go into a big boy store with your mommy and daddy, you're gonna pass over some fiat money. Fiat's not the car, it's when the government, the White House place. No, okay, like you're not gonna go that far into like dumbing it down, but you are gonna dumb it down to like, well, when GDP goes up, comma, like that means people have more money to spend, comma, and they like to spend more. Like the end. I think that's too many commas. But that was just like a natural break of thought. Okay, let's go back to our boards. So we have the dollar and we have the rupee and we have some of these demand shifters and I erased the supply shifters. But you know what? Let's for fun, I'm gonna erase it all because you should have had it like written down. So here we go. On the day of the test, what color pen are you allowed to
Blue or black ink.
Blue or black ink. So I suggest if you're graphing, which you will be, maybe have both. Because sometimes it's hard to read your graph when all in one color. And since you're only allowed blue and black, no pinks, no reds, no highlighter. I know that like there was a testing room that was given highlighter and that might be really bad. So if your test proctor is passing out highlighters, you say no thank you. And like really no thank you. The entire room says no thank you. Because you don't want like your score to be taken away. Because of
Can we say you stupid?
no, don't do that.
It's like if someone's off.
A highlighter on any part.
Always say no. Really?
Highlighter on any part of the AP exam is no.
Why?
It's a part of the rules.
Well,
Okay.
fuck you.
Let's say that inflation is 2% higher in the USA. Inflation is 2% higher in the USA. You're going to graph what happens to both the United States dollar and the Indian rupee. And then off to the side, you're going to write what happens, because it's going to be a two-part question. Graph, and then you're going to say, like, does the US dollar appreciate, depreciate, and does the rupee appreciate or depreciate? You're going to graph it. Don't forget your boops. Without your boops, you're not right. Okay. There are two possible answers here. Because I don't know if you remember, false semester kids. You could think of this as an American or as someone from India, as an Indian. But both are right, because the idea of appreciation, depreciation is going to always, that'll always be the right answer. It doesn't matter how you got there. So remember the 3 rules of currency. Rule number 1, one country's currency will appreciate, the other one will depreciate. Rule number 2, and look at your graphs to make sure yours matches. One will have a shift of demand, another one will have a shift of supply. And rule number 3, the shifts are in the same direction. If demand is shifting, nope, the same. If demand is shifting to the right, so is supply of the other graph. If demand is shifting to the left, so supply of the other graph, whatever the other graph is. So I will show you the 2 possible answers here.
Can you define appreciation and depreciation?
Appreciation is when the value of a currency increases relative to another one. So if you have your boops higher, it appreciated. Depreciation is when the value of a currency falls relative to another. So if you shift and your boops go down, that means it depreciated. Okay, so here's one possible answer. I'm sitting here in the United States of America, and I see that inflation is high here. That means prices are high here, and I can't afford stuff here. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to my bank, and I'm going to dump my currency. What? I'm going to dump my currency, and I'm going to demand more Indian products that are cheaper, because their inflation is relatively low compared to ours. Demand increases and shifts to the right.
And this is one correct.
This is one correct answer. And that had the answer be the US dollar. It looks like the price of it fell, so it depreciated. And the rupee, well, the value of it went up, so it appreciated. That is one correct answer. Another correct answer, unfortunately, we have to draw this all over again. Another correct answer.
I just forget. I'm sorry. You don't like the farm. I know.
Okay, US dollar, Indian rupee, inflation is high here, and I'm sitting over here in India, and I'm like, wow, things are really expensive in the United States. I probably don't want them because they're too expensive. I'm probably, as an Indian, and not going to exchange my currency. Why would I? It's too expensive over there, and I don't want their currency. So demand for the dollar could fall only if the supply of the rupee also falls. But the answer is the same. The rupee appreciated, and oh Jesus.
That should be down. That should be down. You drew it wrong.
There.
Oh, this.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just drew it wrong.
Yeah, but I
mark it down.
shouldn't. No, I don't have
Don't
to.
cut it. You just have to rub. See it.
Okay.
Well, that's how I feel about it. Oh, I went to AC/DC econ, kept getting this 5 minutes of headbanging against the board.
Okay. Done. The US dollar depreciated and the rupee appreciated. However you get the answer, as long as the rules are in play, one demand, one supply, same direction, one appreciates, one depreciates. Bella.
If it says like what happens to the supply of the US dollar,
Then you can only think of it from that perspective. If it says, what happens to the supply of the US dollar, you're all like, demand goes down. No. No.
What if it says like graph, and then you graph it that way, and then it's like based on like your graph, what happens to the supply, and you have
No, they wouldn't say
They
that
wouldn't?
because based on your graph, you already shifted it. But they can say like,
show what happens to the supply.
yes. Yes. But then keep in mind that with every graph, okay, I'm not going to say every graph because sometimes they do it with only like 1 point. But for 90% of graphs, you'll have 2 points here, one for it labeled correctly and one for a correct shift. So it's like just because you shifted the wrong way does not mean you're like, I lost all the points. It's like that you maybe lost 1 out of like 9.
So a higher interest rate in the United States will decrease the demand for US dollar, therefore decreasing its quantity.
No, are you talking about this question?
This question,
This is inflation.
yeah, this is inflation.
You said interest
Oh,
rates.
sorry, but inflation, the higher interest rate, well, inflation.
The higher inflation. Justin, what does that mean? High what?
High inflation, that
No.
means high quantity.
No,
No,
it means
sorry.
high prices. Inflation is prices. It's been a while, but do you remember?
Vaguely.
Okay, on the very first day of school, I was like, you guys think of inflation as the quantity of the dollar goes down. And I know that you get that from US history. And then I spent a semester or maybe a year beating it out of you that inflation is prices are going up. And then you went to government and forgot it all.
What if I took government and economics at the same time? My brain was like,
Yeah,
it was hard.
yeah. What have you been doing this last semester? Nothing?
Nothing. I had double early release. Well, now I don't do nothing even more because I wrecked my car. Well, okay, so like I did nothing before, but now I have more nothing because I don't have a car now.
So you could have been coming to tutoring this whole time. That's totally fine.
What do you
Okay.
mean? Like I have been.
No, but like my 7th period, you could have come in and like we could.
I didn't know we
tutor
could do that.
And like review it every day, Jessica. You could be like at the top of your eco game.
I didn't know we could do that.
Oh, it's just
Now
too
you
late
know.
for critical
What did you
questions. Okay. There's like another graph, like it gives you this whole scenario on like the back. Yeah, you can erase it. Well, we're gonna do a couple more. I don't love this. I don't like the fill in the blank because the AP test doesn't have fill in the blank. The AP test has multiple choice. The AP test has FRQs. So we're gonna do a couple of that, and then we're gonna talk about comparative and absolute advantage. Comparative and absolute advantage.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hated that.
Okay, so let's do a couple more graphs. This time let's do the yen and the euro.
On the sheet.
On your whiteboard. I don't think there's any room on the sheet. Yen and the euro. Quantity of yen. Oh my gosh, I'm about to write dollar sign. I'm so egotistical.
Dollar sign. Dollar sign.
Oh geez, I can't write without like writing the dollar. Don't do that. What's what the?
It's like a bachelor's degree. You did
Wait,
it wrong.
Miss Taylor, isn't
You
the
did it wrong.
the euro supposed to?
I did it again.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch
No,
myself.
but that's supposed to
And
be
the
on the
yen is
bottom.
supposed to be on the
Okay,
bottom.
And
okay.
you started the other one wrong.
I
You
did.
didn't
Let
see
me
my
try that
scroll.
again.
But please do the yen on the left.
No.
So you think it's smart one?
Yen and the euro. That's the yen. Euro goes on the top. Yen goes on the denominator. Quantity of yen. Demand of yen, supply of yen, equilibriums of yen. That's the euro. Quantity of euro, yen over euro, demand of euro, supply of euro, equilibriums of euro. Brad, what you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
I'm saying mom. I'm writing at mom's.
Cool. I just said junior. Okay.
Hey, what about Shayla?
That's what I do.
Yeah, where is Shayla?
Does she take? She was here.
Yeah, she's at Pico.
Wait, how?
I think she graduated early.
No, she's not.
She's
Or not, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay,
She's just.
I am going to throw some stuff that should be pretty easy for my spring semester kids. Okay, fall semester kids, I'm pushing you into being a little uncomfortable. Okay, here we go.
Uncomfortable.
This isn't okay.
I'm fine.
It's fine.
Can do it. Oh, no.
I don't know what the name of the, I'll just say this, I was gonna say the Fed, that only applies in the United
Why
States.
did they look racist?
The Central Bank
So,
of Japan sells bonds.
Okay.
Graph what happens to currency. And then tell me
There was something about
what happens
That's
to
monetary
the exports of Europe.
They sell bonds.
Okay.
Increasing the quantity.
In your head, use your English Irish, Justin. Okay, the Central Bank of Japan sells bonds. What happens? What happens to exports of Europe? Period. The end. Question. There's your question.
I hope that's not
Do you want this here?
All right, let me ring. I'm looking at it. I've made bad choices this week when it comes to
It's my birthday cookie cake. So
what?
it's my birthday cookie cake, so you're taking a piece of me. You're putting it inside of you.
Seriously, you need to leave.
No. Do you want some?
Really, no, now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That really creeped me out.
Did you still want some?
I want a piece of
It had my name on it.
I don't know.
What are they?
You already had me this
I got it.
I don't know what to do.
Okay,
Wait, no, I want to try.
Hold on.
so try to think about what is the relationship between the idea of buying and selling bonds to the things that shift currency.
Well, selling bonds.
Oh,
Putting more
money
money out in the
circulation.
system.
It puts
Wait,
When you sell
more
a
or
bond,
less.
when you sell a bond,
it's
Less.
taking money. Right?
What graph is shifted before this happens? What graph is shifted if the Federal Reserve is selling bonds?
Money market.
The money market, money supply
Don't tell me.
to the left. Money supply to the left.
I did that.
What are the axes of that graph?
What are the axes? And God knows it doesn't look like
Interest
that.
rate?
it's nominal interest rate on the y-axis.
Brett, erase that graph.
And the
That's
quantity of
Yeah,
money
that is
on
not-
the x-axis.
What does
It's
it look
nominal. Real interest rate is the quantity
Did I do it
quantity
right?
of loanable funds.
hold on, I haven't got an answer yet.
Did I even do that?
I just made it up.
Oh, God.
That sells bonds in Japan. Okay, how? I don't want to rob you of thinking, but I want to think out loud.
Wait,
I'm being robbed.
Okay,
I don't
I'll do this
remember.
one because this might have been a little bit too deep of a pool for some of you. Maybe we should have gotten our toes wet a little first.
Yeah.
But here, I'm going to think out loud for this question, so follow along. Hey, Miss Taylor, did you know when the Central Bank of Japan sells bonds, that's contractionary monetary policy, which decreases money supply, raises interest rates.
Oh.
Interest rates where? Oh, interest rates are high in Japan. Oh, wait, as a foreigner, which is what I'm graphing here, interest rates are high in Japan. That's my new problem. High interest rates in Japan. Oh, that means my financial investments are earning more return in Japan. You know what? As a European, that looks really enticing to me. So I want to save my money here. So as a European, I'm probably going to dump my currency, supply more in the marketplace, depreciating the euro, and demand more Japanese yen to take advantage of those high interest rates.
Can you do it the other way?
Could you say that being there's less money in circulation,
I
the
did it
supply
opposite.
for the yen goes to the left?
No, because that's not money. You just said money, but you're graphing currency, and they're not synonymous. Okay, that's a completely
So what
different
does the
graph.
quantity
Can you shift
aspect mean?
supply?
The quantity of that currency in circulation.
So you're contracting the supply of money.
Contracting the supply of money raises interest rates. And that becomes your problem, Justin. The problem isn't raising or lowering money supply. It's how that affects interest rates. And if interest rates are higher, that's the shifter of currency right there. And I want that currency. You could have shifted it differently. You could have shifted supply to the right for euro only if you did demand to the right for yen. You could have also said, as someone from Japan, less supply of Japanese yen, less demand of the euro. Is that what you did, Kayla?
That's what I did.
Okay, but we didn't answer the question yet. Hold on, Kennedy. What happens to exports in Europe?
They go down.
Well, what happened to the value of the euro? What does that mean?
There's stuff cheaper. so-
Things are cheaper there. So exports in Europe are going to go up.
Good job,
Kayla.
Thank you.
Okay. I think the majority of people didn't attempt that question.
I did.
I
tried.
Oh,
bad start.
Can I get
So wait,
Yes, you get an extra point on your AP test.
Can I have a sticker?
Hold on.
Andrew.
Andrew?
Decrease.
You didn't do anything but.
Of what?
Oh,
Which, can you decrease the supply of the yen and decrease the demand for the dollar? Yes.
Yeah?
That's euro.
Yeah.
Yes. Could you have said leftward shift here, leftward shift here? Yes.
Oh, you could
But you can't
No,
say.
no.
You could have thought,
No.
yes,
Yeah, but you went like this, so supply would go.
that's demand.
Oh, I thought you said he was shifting demand on this side.
Wait,
No, you can do a rightward shift of supply and a rightward shift of demand. If you were thinking as a European, but if you're thinking like someone in Japan whose interest rates are high here, you could have also said, I'll keep my money to myself. I don't want to invest over there. Less demand for the euro, less supply as I keep my currency to myself to take advantage of the interest rates that are high in my country. The answers are still the same. The yen will appreciate, the euro will depreciate, and exports for Europe will go up. Allie, get off your phone. Jordan, get off your phone. Kennedy, get off your phone. What?
Waiting for something else to happen.
A new question?
Yeah,
Did you get that one?
yeah, I did.
Did you understand
Yes.
it? Okay. Let's do it. We're doing this until everyone is right.
What?
I was right.
It's gonna be a while. I was right, but I just said that I should supply for the yen to the left because it was less in circulation.
Oh, I
That-
forgot
that
the graph
was
for
cross,
today.
though.
I just wanted to fill out
Like,
this.
from
You say
the-
there's just less money.
There's one step between that you were missing. Because you have to think that sugars of
Yeah.
Sugars of currency is not-
Yeah, I can't.
The same as the sugars for one supply.
right. Different graphs. Okay,
My bad. Can we rewind and take them back?
all right. Let's do
I just stopped.
USA
Fire kid.
and Euro. That's one boring.
Now
We should use the go to that after measure.
No.
That's,
I don't need to scrap right now, so.
It's all coming back.
I thought I was doing good.
Okay, that was one of the hardest things I could think of for currency. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So it's all downhill from here.
It's not all downhill from here, but it is not getting harder. How about that?
Okay, cool.
Jealous.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Oh, God, no.
Rupees. Just
I
coming.
thought she was gonna write resets.
No.
I thought she was gonna write recession.
Recession in Europe. Recession in Europe.
Oh, no.
Let's say, but
It's harder than the last one.
Didn't you hear? Britain ain't part of Europe anymore.
Okay. So then, so they're not buying anything, so their supply increases.
I don't think I was here for that. That's too bad. Okay. Recession in Europe. What does that mean? How do you think Europeans would react? How would that affect the graphs? Look at your graphs.
Well, that would logically make goods cheaper. Maybe. No.
The interest rates go up.
They don't have
Well,
any
I mean,
money to
yeah.
spend.
there's no way to
GDP
a lot of
is
the supply of
I do
Europe
the
shifts to the
American
left,
way.
right?
Justin, you can think of it like that. You can think of it like that. The way you were thinking is not wrong. The way that Cole was thinking was not wrong. He said something completely different, but it wasn't wrong. What Allie said was wrong. Okay.
They go down.
We're in a recession. Let me raise interest rates. Hoover. Like, no. No one's got any money. Let's take more away. No.
Why the like?
We already.
What if people had
quicksand,
less?
let's just
How much
throw all
fun
the
would
way
that
in at this
be?
point.
Hey.
It's not like you guys are being worth living for anymore.
Oh my God.
I still think I did this.
Okay.
Wait.
Can I see your graphs? Okay, hold on. In my head.
You could, if you could.
If you can read it.
I mean, best of luck.
Jessica, show your graph.
Well, I'm not sure.
Just put it
Yes,
up.
put it down.
Okay.
No,
What?
it's incorrect.
Wait, can I explain to you my reasoning?
It's wrong. It wouldn't matter.
No, just like.
No, Brendan. So wrong.
It's like saying like 1 + 1 = 3, but let me explain. That's also wrong. Yeah, that is right. Your rules don't apply. You have 2 demand shifts. You have no boobs. I'm not in love.
Okay, you can still look at it without the boobs. I'm bringing the boobs.
Due to the recession,
Oh,
lower demand.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, Brendan was right. When you said
Yeah.
it was wrong, I was like,
I
what?
was
Who
trying
has
to.
a recession?
Europe does.
And so we're dumping. I was trying to explain to you, like, hey,
Hold on. I might have just.
Jesus.
You
Let me
robbed
just
Brendan.
look at it.
You robbed Brendan of
So
a
am
right
I
answer.
wrong? So
I don't know.
Look at it!
Oh my.
Wait, hold on.
There's a recession in Europe.
Europe has a recession. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
The bubbles. The bubbles.
Yes.
Yeah, we did it wrong.
Wait.
I need to.
Yes.
Wait, Kate, let me show you, like, explain to you why.
Yes.
Let me explain to you why,
You're
right?
thinking like an American?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Wait.
You have
I'm
no
done-
boobs.
I'm done.
I'm not looking at without boobs.
Dumping the US dollar, dumping it out by shifting supply to the. Yes, and that means
Sorry.
there's a
And I
demand.
look at yours, I'm thinking your, US do it. That was my
How you do it, I grab it in my head.
Man, I just like.
It's just down a little bit. You don't have to be so high.
That is,
Yeah.
that is
win the high
correct.
game, John.
I mean.
Yes. Just get the view.
Okay, hold on, let me look at it.
This is the USA.
That's the USA? Okay, so I'm gonna say yes. And
My arm hurts now.
Stop being a baby.
Yeah.
yes.
Hey, Brendan.
Go.
Okay. There was 2 right answers here. You could think of it, Jordan, as an American or as a European. I'm going to think of it as an American.
America only has so many more.
I'm not American, so I
I think it's in the Europe.
There's a recession in Europe. You know, recession due to prices, Justin?
Oh.
They reduce them
They reduced them.
Deflation.
Where are they have lower prices now?
in Europe.
In Europe. You know what I want? You European things that are super, super cheap, and I will dump my currency to do it.
Wow.
You can think of it like this.
Wow. No,
Or-
you're wrong.
Okay, wait.
Wait.
Or you can think of it
Bike with it.
Thanks, Mr. You're welcome.
Just got so quiet.
It's
All right,
walk-
let's continue.
It's the walk of shame. Yes.
Okay.
You can think of it like the pink shifts, or you can think of it like the green shifts, but you cannot combine a green shift and a pink shift because that doesn't follow the rules. So you can think of it as an American is like things are cheap there and they dump their currency to buy now cheap European recession stuff, or as a European it's like, oh, I have no money, we're going through a recession, so I'm going to keep the money that I have and demand less U.S. goods because I can't even afford them because I'm in a recession. So you can have either way. Look, the euro will appreciate and the dollar will depreciate. Either way.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what happens to net exports when currencies appreciate or depreciate.
So
I believe, who was it did this?
decrease in prices
It was Megan.
Yeah.
in Europe.
Shout out to Megan if you're at home watching this, showing your thing. If it appreciates, so what happens to XN when a currency appreciates, XN falls, XN goes down when it appreciates. When a currency depreciates, XN goes up for depreciate.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it, Jay.
Appreciate.
So when it appreciates,
When a
net
currency
exports
appreciates.
decrease.
Yes.
Because everything's super expensive.
Yes. When a currency depreciates, now that currency is cheaper, and so anything that the currency buys, like goods and services, is cheaper. So I'm going to buy more stuff from that country, and its exports will go up.
What's the opposite of a recession?
Inflation.
Say it again.
The
Recession.
opposite of a recession is inflation. No.
Yes.
Yeah, technically the opposite of a recession
Is expansion.
is expansion, but if you expand too much, then it can cause inflation.
Am I?
Okay.
Everyone get this one right?
And inflation makes everyone millionaires, as everyone in Zimbabwe was.
Yes, everyone in Zimbabwe is a millionaire.
Well, until
That
they got
means
rid of
nothing.
their own currency and just replaced it with ours.
Okay, we're talking about comparative and absolute advantage. So if you were here the very first day, I did not have this full packet yet, and I gave you this little tiny packet.
Yeah.
Okay, get this little tiny packet out. If you were not here the very first day, I need to give you this little tiny packet of comparative and absolute advantage. It has like basic economic concepts, but it also has a section of comparative and absolute advantage.
And you already covered all of this on
I
your
did on Monday, and that video is on YouTube. Yes, but we didn't do comparative and absolute advantage. Here.
Oh, next page.
Okay, does everyone see it's on the back? Right
Yes, ma'am.
there. Trend, language. Hey. I bet you,
$5.
no,
I bet you my salary. 100 retweets.
no.
A sticker.
No, your whole
I
$7.
bet you
Two
Balloon.
stickers. Two
A
stickers.
sticker of your choice.
a sticker of your choice.
No.
Where is it?
You're not even in this class.
She's not even in this class.
No,
A balloon.
No, I like the stickers. Let's go with stickers.
I bet you a sticker of your choice.
No, 2 stickers.
That the FRQ on Wednesday, which is in like no days.
5.
That was me checking my watch and realizing it's coming quick. It's gonna be an absolute comparative advantage.
No.
Okay.
What is telling you this?
Experience. But who knows? It might be a whole FRQ about basal ganglia.
Psychology would be over
It was. The second one was
What was it over?
research methods. The one with the graph that was just released today, and I saw all the questions. Is research methods. What were you doing?
Explain the answer.
This is AP
Not right
macro review.
Maybe tomorrow class. I don't know. Okay, so let's do the one here on the left. It's an output question, and I hate the fact that Mr. Clifford even titled it output question. It leaves nothing to the imagination. You don't even know, like, you don't have to figure it out. You just have to, whatever. Output. So we have Cuba, and Mexico. They are making sugar and cars. They can produce 40 tons of sugar or 10 cars. Mexico can produce, oh man, or 50. What about Cuba?
No disrespect.
So, Cuba can produce either 40 tons of sugar or 10 cars. Mexico can produce either 50 tons of sugar or 100 cars. Trent, who has an absolute advantage in sugar? Why?
They make more.
They make more. What about cars?
Also Mexico.
Why?
They make more cars.
Yes, I have literally seen like on an FRQ who has an absolute advantage in sugar and explain. And people are like, because 50 is more than 40, and that's right. Yeah. Like Mexico, because it's more things.
As an FAQ.
Yeah.
I hope you get one like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna parade.
I forget. It was like 3 years ago, and it was like Jake and Amanda are making cupcakes and brownies, and it's like, and then obviously like Amanda can make more brownies and cupcakes because she's a woman, and sexist. And it was all like, who can produce more? And I'm like, that's the question. But of course, then it was all like, and the trade agreement is.
Oh.
So then like, okay.
The agreement is the man that admits he can't cook properly.
So the absolute advantage of sugar is Mexico. The absolute advantage of cars is Mexico. But then now we're talking about who has a comparative advantage for cars and who has a comparative advantage for sugar. Does anyone from the fall semester remember how to figure out comparative advantage if it is an output problem? Someone from the fall
We're almost
semester.
ready to answer whenever they have.
Output over.
The output, the other goes over, okay? So I'm gonna grab the other number. Like if I have my pen on 40, I'm grabbing the other number, which is 10, and putting it over. The other comes over. Now 40 goes over 10. The other comes over. The other comes over. And now you're going to simplify. 10 over 40 is a fourth. 40 over 10 is 4. And we have 2.5. John, you were so willing to answer. Define comparative advantage for me.
Takes less time.
Nope.
Takes less time.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
They're able to make more.
Brendan.
It's more efficient for one country to make a product, even though the
It
other
costs them
country
less.
costs.
Less.
Lowest opportunity.
Lowest opportunity cost. Cole, thank you. Lowest opportunity cost. You just is literally lowest opportunity cost. And that's what these numbers are. As a refresher. As a refresher. What this means, these tables, these fractions. If Cuba was to make sugar, every time they make 1 sugar ton, they're giving up the opportunity to make a fourth of a car. If Cuba produces cars, every time they make 1 car, they could have already made 4 tons of sugar. Mexico, if they were making sugar, and the time it takes them to make 1 ton of sugar, they could have made 2 cars. And if Mexico was making cars, for every car that they made in that same time, they could have made a half a ton of sugar. So for sugar, Cuba gives up 1/4 of a car. Mexico gives up 2 full cars. Cuba has a comparative advantage in sugar. For cars, Cuba is giving up 4 sugars. Mexico's only giving up a half. So Mexico has a comparative advantage in car production. Okay.
You said in an effort you actually had to make up a trade agreement?
No, they're not going to have you make up a trade agreement. They will give you one. We're going to look at a multiple choice question in a second, where it's a multiple choice one, and they're giving you 5, and they're saying which one's the best.
Is the answer number 2 4 sugars?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Wait, for both countries' benefit of one trade, how much sugar can we trade for each car?
Yes.
1 car for what is the question asking?
What is Cuba's?
It's just asking for the opportunity
producing 1 car?
cost.
4 sugars.
All right, number 4.
Oh, we do.
Next.
How'd you get 4 sugars?
But that is the opportunity to produce one car.
4 sugars or 1/2 sugars.
It takes 4 sugars to make one car.
No, it's saying for them to benefit from trade. This one is asking for a trade agreement.
I'm on number 2.
Oh, number 2?
Yes, we should have one.
Alrighty.
Yes, I'm on
Number 4.
Go to number 4 now.
Okay,
Where are we?
I don't know.
Number 4. Now we're
Okay,
on number 4.
let's just look at number 1 again.
Like,
What country has absolute advantage in sugar? Mexico. What about cars? Mexico. What is Cuba's opportunity cost of producing 1 car? Cuba, 1 car, 4 sugars.
4 tons of sugar.
Whatever. What country has a comparative advantage in cars?
Mexico.
Mexico. What about sugar? Cuba. And now we're on number 4. For both countries to benefit from trade, how much sugar can be traded for each car? 1 car for how many sugars? 1 car for how many sugars? Okay, well, if it's a 1 car,
Good luck.
Here we go.
Where's everybody going?
Bye, Meredith. Good luck. No, the big one's going. If you can see Casey. No, they go in there. Right there. There we go.
Alright.
Maybe happy.
Moving on.
I don't. Is it asking?
For both countries to benefit.
What would be the best trade deal here?
Okay, let me work something out and see if I'm right. That wasn't good. 1 car is equal to 2. If 1 car is equal to 2 sugars, if that's, I'm just making up a number. If 1 car is equal to 2 sugars, 1 car, 2 sugars, that would be better. But then it'd be 1 sugar for a half of a car, and
1 car.
that would work too. 1 sugar, 2 could be an answer. Could 3 be an answer?
What if it's like all real numbers?
I don't think that's right.
We have had this question before, I remember.
Yes, but it was, they're not gonna ask you to make one up.
This makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's probably just gonna be a multiple choice.
It will be. Oh my God,
What?
stupid.
4
If you look at
sugars.
the key, it says any number between 4 and a half,
Between 4 and
like 3.59268 would be a correct answer.
Are they gonna give us
Okay,
a
no, they're
like
not gonna do that. Okay.
It's like,
They're not
just
gonna
put
do
3.5.
We are gonna do a trade agreement question in just a second, but let's do the next one, input.
How's it any number?
That's if you're making up one, you won't have to.
No, but like, how's it just any
Just-
number?
just
Because
don't
any
worry
number, the
about it.
reciprocal works for, like, that number and the reciprocal of that number will work for both Cuba and Mexico. There's a range. It's not just one trade agreement works. It could be several trade agreements, as long as it's less than the number you did circle for both countries, which could be any number of numbers. Yes. But that's why they're not going to ask you to make up one, because literally, like, so many numbers work that it would be harder to grade than if it was just like, does this work, yes or no? Yes, okay, they get the point. No, it doesn't work, they get a point or whatever.
Was it any number between 1/2 and 4?
4.5, yeah, 4.5. Like a half. I don't know why they even wrote it backwards.
Yeah, it should be 1/2 and.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so let's do Canada and the UK. And I want you to do this on your own. They're making sausage and computers. You're trying to figure out who has an absolute advantage in sausage, who has the absolute advantage in computers, who has a comparative advantage in sausage, and who has a comparative advantage in computers. Remember, this is an input problem. This table shows the number of hours it takes to produce a ton of sausage or a ton of computers. So these are hours in the table, not how much they're making, but how long it takes them to make it. That matters.
So output is time.
Output is output. This is how much you're making. This is how much you're putting out. Like, look at the Cuba and one, Cuba and sugar, whatever. It says, this table says how much they could make for the same amount of resources. I can make more carbs than you and sugar. But this one is like, this is how many hours it takes them to make sausage and computers. So 2 this time is hours versus 10 hours.
Okay.
Hey, you say that?
I haven't done it yet. Right.
Let me check.
Thank you. Okay. Just looking at the absolute advantage. Christian, who has an absolute advantage in making sausages? Why? I thought like it says 10.
It's the lower number.
Oh, with input, we're talking about hours.
Oh.
Now we're talking about being faster, okay? So it's 2 hours versus 10 hours, so you're right, it is Canada. Yes, you start off wrong, you do the whole thing wrong. And if we're talking about FRQ, it builds. Same thing with computers. The 6 is faster than 10, and so once again, Canada has an absolute advantage. This is an input problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Dylan, how do you do input problems to figure out comparative advantage?
I think that you put the other one under.
You can think of it like that. The other one goes under. You can say that it becomes the numerator. You can say lots of things. As long as you put this 2 over 6, and this 6 over 2, and this 10 over 10, and this 10 over 10. 2 over 6 is 1/3, and then this is 3.
Yay!
Good job, Dylan, and everybody else who did this.
Thank you.
Yay. Whether it is input or output, if you're doing comparative advantage, you are always looking for the lowest opportunity cost because that's the definition of comparative advantage. So I know with inputs and outputs, it's like who's faster, who's making more, do I look for big numbers, small numbers, but for comparative advantage, and the fractions, you always look for the smaller number. Even if it's like this is the number of hours or this is the number of things that they're making, it's always lowest opportunity cost. So for sausage, we're looking at 1/3 and versus 1, Canada for 1/3. For computers, we're looking at 3 and 1 and UK for 1. So when it comes to sausage, it's Canada. And when it comes to computers, it's the UK. Okay, I'm ignoring those questions underneath.
4. Okay.
Like to figure out, like we did the questions, we just didn't do it in the way that they're asking to do it, but we answered them.
Would 4 just be 1/3?
Say it again?
Would 4 just be 1/3?
Yes,
Oh, well,
probably.
when do you have to leave?
Me? 4:30.
She lives like, she lives.
Well, I hate you also now.
No, I don't hate everybody.
Just to sleep.
Okay. I think we need practice questions more than we need notes. So I recommend that you keep your whiteboards and do the work on your whiteboards. I have a mock test here, and I've got some like questions.
The trade agreement.
We have a question of trade agreements. Okay, so hopefully, if you're in spring semester, you just saw this question about a week ago on a quiz. I think it's maybe the only one that is going to be a repeat that you've seen before. Oh, geez. If I can get this working. Okay, it's number 5. The exchange rate between the United States dollar and the British pound changed from $2 per £1 to $3 per £1, and the domestic prices in both countries stayed the same. And then the United States dollar would A, depreciate, making the United States imports from Britain more expensive. B, depreciate, making the United States imports from Britain cheaper. Appreciate, making the United States imports from Britain more expensive. D, appreciate, making United States imports from Britain cheaper. Or E, purchase 3 times more British goods than before the change occurred. This might take a little bit of time, but I will give you some time.
Maybe doing 3.
Number 5.
Oh, that was good stuff.
Okay. So let me write on here again.
It's for some money.
Is it because of that thing?
I don't know. I don't understand. Whatever.
Oh, we old school. But, are you drawing more with that number?
Yes.
Oh, damn.
Oh.
Okay.
Rebel.
Oh.
I know.
What if I switch it up?
Of course. Of course. Of course it's going to highlight because that would just be too freaking good. Okay. $2 per £1 to $3 per £1. Yesterday, I only needed $2 US to buy £1. Now I need $3 US to buy the same amount. So my dollar isn't going as far.
So
it depreciated. The United States dollar depreciated. Okay, so it's one of these. But if our currency depreciated, what happens to our XN?
Increases.
It increases. Think of that D that's written with an upward arrow. Our XN goes up. So making U.S. imports from Britain more expensive, we're going to be importing
Yes.
less,
Yeah.
or depreciate, making U.S. imports from Britain cheaper. If ours is depreciating, what's happening to theirs?
It's appreciated.
Appreciating. So their goods going to be more cheaper. Ugh. Are they going to be more expensive or more cheap?
More expensive.
More expensive.
Because $2 used to get you $1, now it takes $3 to get you.
Yes. It's not, 2 to 3. You went up. No, that's not what it's saying. This is going to be fun to do between every question. Okay.
You missed a spot.
It's just, no, it's a, well, yeah, there we go.
All right, next question, number 10. Man, this board probably needed a good cleaning. Okay, number 10 is right here. Appreciation of the U.S. dollar on the foreign exchange market could be caused by a decrease in which of the following? A, United States interest rates. B, the United States Consumer Price Index. C, demand for the dollar by the United States residents. D, exports from the United States. Or E, the tariff on goods imported to the United States. Is that right? No. No? Can't hurt to check again. Okay.
on the test?
This?
Yeah.
This question.
Yeah. Did everyone?
Probably. I think this was y'all's final exam last year, or last semester.
Yeah. Since this is funny for another.
Okay.
I don't remember the question.
Hey, what is something that decreases? If it decreases, it makes our appreciation. Yes, reading is good.
I
Okay.
can do that.
If interest rates decreased, I don't want to save my currency there. That would make that currency depreciate, not appreciate.
Which would decrease demand.
Right. If the what is the CPI?
Consumer prices.
Well, if it went down, what does that mean?
Plus spending.
A recession?
What does consumer price index measure?
The prices.
Inflation.
So the inflation. So if CPI went down, that means that we have less inflation. That means things are cheap there. That means I want it more.
Because less inflation means
The appreciation.
it's worth less.
If the demand for the US dollar does not change because the demand for the residents, we can't demand our dollar. Remember, we dump our currency or keep it to ourselves. That's not a thing that can happen. If our exports goes down, then people don't want our currency. Obviously, they don't want our goods, which would depreciate our currency. And if a tariff on goods imported to the United States, if tariffs were on like imports, like if a Nissan costs more because there's a tariff on it, I probably won't buy it. Probably don't.
But it's a decrease in the tariff.
Oh, okay. Because as I was talking about, I was like, that's actually the right answer. You're right. It's a tariff that goes down. Oh, that Japanese car is now cheaper. I probably want it. Which means I'm going to dump my currency to demand more of theirs, and ours will depreciate. It is B.
Wait, what?
You just
CPI going down?
CPI going down, that means things are cheap.
Yeah,
If things
but,
are cheap when people want
so
them,
that's the best answer?
that is the correct answer. It's not the best answer. That is the only correct answer.
Okay, then why'd you just
Didn't
say,
you
you just
say
validated
But
E?
if the CPI goes down, does that mean that our things are cheaper?
Yes. And more people want our things. And if people want our things and demand our things, what will happen to the value of our currency?
Oh, okay. I'm thinking.
So this is very long term.
Man,
Not
this is
very long
long-term.
term.
All right, so CPI represents inflation.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
CPI decrease, which means inflation decrease. Which
That's
means
correct.
The value of our dollar.
No. Do we just have this conversation of what inflation is?
Price
man.
level goes down,
Oh, man.
the more
Oh,
people
man.
Price
want it.
down.
Price is going down.
Price is going down,
Go-
Things are
down.
cheap. Prices are falling.
which means demand would go up.
And that would appreciate the dollar.
All right.
Trend.
Okay, there was a question on the test that like confused me, and it was like Britain's inflation, or no, was it their interest rate
Oh,
raised
you're
to
talking about-
8%,
It's like,
and then like another country's was 5%.
That was all.
Today?
Yeah,
Australia,
it was on the test.
there was a higher interest rate in Britain, and
Yeah.
there's a lower one in Australia. And so it was like asking about, it was like, so what happened?
Financial account. Where
Huh?
would the what happens to the financial account? If it flows from like Australia to Britain or Britain to Australia.
It was like,
And
does
then
it
it says,
appreciate?
like, the
And
interest
like,
rate.
it was asking about the flow of it.
Oh, okay, I remember this question now. It was like a two-part question.
Yeah.
Like appreciate, comma, there's an inflow or something.
There's an
Hi,
inflow
Kayla.
into Britain and an outflow from Australia.
Who had high interest rates?
Britain.
Britain. And the financial account is investments. So if there's high interest in Britain, their financial account will have an inflow of money as everyone wants to save there, and it should appreciate their currency. So it should appreciate and be an inflow in their financial account if interest rates are higher there.
And there will be an outflow
Then it
from.
said like
The
Is it
other
that
country,
Yeah.
and their currency will depreciate.
it says then the interest rates of Britain will and the interest rates of Australia will.
Oh, well, where are they going to put their money for those financial investments?
Higher interest rates. And,
Where? No, physically where?
and
In a bank. And so if they are putting their money in that country, because interest rates are so high, then there's more money in loanable funds because they're dumping their money into the bank, and that drives down interest rates.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, trend.
There was another one that we took where there was a picture That could have, honestly, I interpreted it both ways. It was the graph one. I'm trying to draw it, but I think I drew it wrong.
Okay, we're going over the test tomorrow, you know that, right?
Yeah, but it's really bothering me.
Okay, but I want to go over these questions with everybody.
Okay. I'm
Um,
not gonna sleep at night.
okay, cool. If the real interest, number 15, if the real interest rate in the United States increases relative to that than the rest of the world, capital flow should. So it's kind of what we were just talking about. Real interest rate increases. Capital flow should.
This is relative to the rest of the
B.
world.
Well, it's, yeah.
As it goes to afterwards, or like, is it increasing while Japan's interest rate's also increasing?
No, because it's relative to the rest of the world.
Oh, okay.
Real interest rates increases. Capital should flow into the United States and the dollar will depreciate. Into the United States and the dollar will appreciate. Out of the United States and the dollar will depreciate. Out of the United States and the dollar will appreciate. Or out of the United States and the value of the dollar will not change.
Into.
Interest rates are high here.
It's gonna go in it.
Yes.
So you.
So what's going to happen to the value of my dollar, though?
Depreciate.
Yay! 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 Yay!
All right, so beyond simply saying that because the demand increases, the value appreciates, is there a more specific explanation?
No.
All right.
Just higher interest rates are more desired when.
Your financial accounts or financial investments are earning more money.
All right.
That's why you demand it. Okay. Let's look at number 26. 26. Let me see what 26 is because I want, before everyone starts to leave, I want. 26 is okay. Okay. The next set though is 3 comparative and absolute advantage questions in a row. So I gotta go. Let's do 26 and then we're gonna do those 3 comparative and absolute advantage questions. So here's number 26. Which of the following will cause the United States dollar to depreciate relative to the euro? A, an increase in household income in the United States. B, an increase in interest rates in the United States. C, an increase in household income in Europe. D, a decrease of interest rates in Europe. Or E, a decrease in the price level in the United States. Which of the following will cause the United States to depreciate? Most people are right here. Let's go through each of these. Okay. I want my US dollar to depreciate. I don't want people to want my currency. An increase in household income in the United States. What does that do? What do we do?
Increase consumption.
Well, no.
How would that affect currency at all?
GDP goes up.
GDP. So that would
More income, GDP goes up.
Interest rate.
No.
No, increased interest rate.
No. Doesn't do anything to interest rate.
It could. That's the
GDP goes up.
Thinking fiscal.
GDP goes up. So what does that mean?
We don't have money to spend.
You have more money to spend. Where might you spend that money?
Foreign investments.
Okay, so you're
Foreign
gonna dump
investments is foreign goods.
foreign stuff. You dump your currency then, yeah?
Yes.
What happens to the supply of the dollar?
Goes up.
Up to
It
the
goes
left?
down. It goes down.
To the right.
More?
To the right, yeah.
To the right.
More
Dumping
supply.
your dollar.
What happens to the value of the dollar?
Depreciate.
There you go.
Dang it.
Okay. If interest rates are high here, I want it. Oh, but I want them to not want it. If they are richer, they'll buy more stuff, appreciating our currency. Oh, I want it to depreciate. If interest rates are low in Europe, I don't want it there. I want it here. Oh, that would appreciate it. A decrease in price level, things are cheaper. I want it. Oh, I don't want it though. A is like everyone is leaving and everyone's dumps their money to buy it somewhere else.
Want that Bugatti.
All right.
I want that Bugatti. Okay. Goodbye, Justin.
Bye, Justin.
I'll be done all this weekend.
Okay, well, study.
Yes.
Love you.
Inflation as the prices go up.
Yay.
Yay. Oh, look at what studies. What?
Your husband instilled that.
What?
Yeah, I know. I need to.
Did you just say did he say your husband is still in debt?
Oh,
It's
instill.
instilled that the idea of the
Oh.
value of the dollar going down, and that gets in your head, and I have to be like, it's not that. Okay, so this next
Your
page.
husband did
They
that.
should have a wrap up.
Okay, let me see if I can. Oh God. Okay, let's just do number 32.
Is this the last thing?
We can have it be the last thing.
Please. My head is frying.
Okay,
I'm like an egg.
here's a graph. I will read the question to you. Before specialization in trade, the domestic opportunity cost of producing 1 ton of grain in alpha and in beta is which of the following? You see one of these questions? I would say you make a table first.
Okay.
Why is it so dark on the screen? So the cost of producing 1 ton of grain. Okay,
What do you have?
what do you have?
Doesn't matter what I have. What do you have?
We are going to flash our boards to each other.
Flashing.
Don't flash.
Can I erase for you?
Here, oh my gosh, I think you all have the same answer.
Just
Just write it down.
Go now.
Ready?
No.
No.
3, 2, 1. Like
Set.
a scar.
No.
Wait, I don't.
Go.
Just do it.
Just write it.
Okay.
Just write it.
I did it.
B.
Hey.
B.
That's a good one.
B.
B.
As in beta.
Okay, but now, no, don't erase it. It's the same problem. Number 33.
Wait, I
It
thought.
continues. They all go off of this graph.
Wait, no, we said we're gonna stop because like our brains are frying.
After these 3.
Yeah.
Like you want to get to this
She
one.
caught you with that package deal, bro.
Yeah.
Smoked
was
over
all
you
or
some
none.
scissors.
Okay, number 33, going still off of this information. Number 33, the theory of comparative advantage implies that alpha would find it advantageous to
Ooh, fancy words.
A, export grain and import steel. B, export steel and import grain. C, export both grain and steel and import nothing. D, import both grain and steel and export nothing. E, trade 1 ton of grain for 0.5 ton of steel. Can we just eliminate something?
Yeah.
What can we eliminate?
C.
And?
D.
Yeah, they're never gonna not trade nothing.
Never trade now.
Never trade nothing. Keep it in the border.
Oh my God. Hey.
It's the only way.
Okay. Alpha would find it advantageous to do what? Advantageous means good and beneficial.
Oh, those are big boys' words. I don't know them.
You'll find out, buddy.
Okay. Can we show each other answers?
I mean, I can. That means it'll be right. Okay, but.
Hey.
Hey,
Yeah.
Ruben?
L.
Oh, no. You just were starting a graph, yes?
That's what we're doing.
Every graph starts with an L.
He just took an L.
It is not E. Wait, no.
Why? They wouldn't do that.
That's not the correct.
To trade
trading
1
unit.
ton of grain for 0.5 steel.
You trade
Because-
2/3 steel.
Okay, 1 ton of grain for 0.5 steel. That would be good for beta,
But not alpha.
but not alpha, because the flip side of that is 1 steel for 2 grains, or
What?
and they could do 1 steel. Oh shoot, 1 steel for 1 grain.
The correct trade rate would be 1 ton of grain for 2/3
Well,
steel, right?
Hold on, that's what this problem is asking.
Oh,
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler
is-
alert!
Jesus.
This is why you go to
It's my
Chili's.
savior.
Yeah,
Okay.
you probably like the Big Bang Theory too.
Yeah,
that's 2 for 2.
it's like that guy that claps at the end of everything.
Okay, now we're 2 for 3.
That's harsh. That's too mean.
I saw it on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Okay,
Yeah.
number 34.
Yeah.
34 is a long. 34 is gone. The end. It's been good. It's been great.
Say goodbye. Smash that like button.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Buy my merch, link in bio.
I should make some merch.
You should make some.
She didn't ask if I could talk in this video, so my rights have not been bought. So I'm waiting.
34.
That doesn't even make any
You don't make sense.
At what real exchange ratio, also referred as the terms of trade between grains and steel, would both alpha and beta find it mutually advantageous to specialize in trade? There are 4 options. Technically 5. You gotta compare each of them. Remember, you have to look for both and see if it's advantageous for both. Those of you that forget how to do this, you don't look at what you've circled.
Yeah.
You look what you don't circle. Right now, can I write on here? Alpha, beta, grain, steel. It was like 30 over 30, which is 1. And it was 30 over 30, which is 1. It was 20 over 30, which is, that was 20 over 10. No, it's not me. Which is half. And then 10 over 20. Oh, crap. Which 2?
No, switches.
Oh, no.
20 over 10 equals 1 half.
Take a second.
Now I know macroeconomics.
Texas Tech. I will do better this time.
You had the 10
Aren't you
over
supposed
20,
to
right?
write
I did.
Not right here.
I sprayed it though. I had to fix it. 20 over 10 is 2.
For this? Oh, I don't know.
Oh, God, that's
It's okay. It's okay.
it's fine.
Just breathe.
It's fine, I'm fine.
Breathe.
Okay, and we had it like circle like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember, alpha's making grain. It's not making steel. But if it were to make 1 steel, for every steel it makes, it gives up the opportunity to make 1 grain. For every, like beta is not making grain, they're making steel. Miss Felice, did you give up? It's so boring.
Fight.
It's okay. Her class is about like world geography and crap.
It's wild.
And her class is like if you say the Mongols, you say
Really?
90% correct.
Hey, listen.
That
Like,
was deep down
this
cut.
class-
That
this
was
class-
stepping on Legos,
Oh.
having like lemon squirted into a cut, and then
Right.
Like
Or
Germans and stuff.
alcohol on it.
That
Yes.
hurts.
and it was like drinking like
This class has opened my eyes.
orange juice after brushing your teeth.
Ew.
Oh, that's good. What are y'all talking about?
Okay, that's gross.
Of course you like
You're
that.
gross.
Okay.
No.
Help us,
Beta's
KT.
not making grain, they're making steel, but if they were to make grain, for every grain that they make, they're giving up the opportunity to make 2 steels. So they could buy 2 steels to make grain by themselves, and they could do 1 grain to make 1 steel by themselves. So one of these trade agreements needs to be lower than both of these options that they already have. It better not be 1 steel for 5 grains, because 1 steel for 5 grains, I can do it for 1 grain. You're making me give up 5 grains, I can do it for 1. So it needs to be like lower than that. So
B.
you work out each one of them.
RT2.
Okay.
I get confused every time I do it.
Do you want to do this together?
Yes,
please.
Okay, let's look at the first one. I don't know the answer. I haven't done this question in a while. I don't know what the key is. So we're gonna I'm literally working this out with you. 1G equals 1 grain equals 3 steels. 1 grain. Where's grain? Oh, there's grain. 1 grain equals 3 steels. Well, right here, I'd have to give up 2 steels. Why'd you be making me give up 3? It's not good for beta. I'm going to say no. 1 grain equals 1.5 steels. 1 grain equals 1.5. Okay. 1.5 is less than 2. But let's try to figure out if it's, right now this is good for beta. We need to see if it's also good for alpha. Well, 1 grain is 1.5 steels. What does 1 steel cost? What's the reciprocal of 1.5?
2/3. Because it's 3 halves.
2/3.
Yeah.
2/3. Okay. So 1 steel equals 2/3 of the grain. 1 steel equals 2/3. 2/3 is less than 1. So far, this looks good, but you have more time on the test than you think. So let's just do the other ones for fun. 1 grain equals 1 steel. 1 grain equals 1 steel. So far, so good for beta. If 1 grain equals 1 steel equals 1 grain. So 1 steel equals 1 grain. Okay, well, that just ties. That just ties. So it's not like good. It just ties. So I'm going to say it's bad. 1 grain equals 0.5 steels. 1 grain equals 0.5 steels. 0.5 is good for beta.
Okay.
The opposite of 0.5 is 2. The reciprocal, because they're like 1/2.
Oh, yeah,
And then it's like flip it, it's 2. So if 1 grain equals 0.5 steels, 1 steel equals 2 grains. 1 steel, 2 grains, I could do for 1 grain by myself. No, there's no real exchange rate ratio that would enable both countries. No, I think we found it, and I think it was B.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Good job.
Man.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
Great
So
job,
if B would
KT.
have been wrong, then C would have been right.
Yes. No, then E would have been right.
Where's your recipe?
Oh, really? Right here.
Okay, so this is saying that there's no options. There's no good
Well, I
options here.
thought, well, C ties.
We're looking for advantageous, which means a better deal.
Yes, you got it.
More beneficial
Oh,
than by themselves. Okay. Like trade is heavy on the test.
Oh, God.
Like you need to be very confident for trade. This does not count as your I studied for trade. There's a lot. So make sure that you're also studying besides just watching these videos. I posted things on Google Classroom.
I like fun.
You can subscribe if you want to, but why would
Commercial link in bio.
you have to listen to all of their
account, I'd subscribe.
You do have a YouTube account. Did you know that everyone that has a Gmail, which I believe Tomo ISD provides you with like a Gmail, remember that like your ID number at sec@tomoschools.net, that's Gmail account. You already have like a YouTube account. So you
sec.tomoschools.net.
subscribe. Totally good. See you later.
You should make version.